when he died, you picked up the shoe. And I had been in recovery for 13 years. I had done everything under the sun, recovery programs, Tony, all of it. And that scared me into 3 years of hiding from Michelle. I ran out of the room after I said, I just really don't want to talk about it. I didn't ever force it. I allowed the field to reveal in time, and then I would resolve. The lesson and the intention for me was to do this, yet to also learn how to slow down in the process, which meant that I had to trust the field and trust the reveal. Here I am 4 years later saying, I'm finally going all in on myself and giving the world what Tony asked me that day. If I didn't give, I would turn into an 80-year-old decrepit woman.
And having to let that business go so you don't become them.
That's right.
Wow.
How powerful is that? And that's what Family Constellations has given me. It's given me my true purpose in life.
You don't talk to grandma about the child that she lost. Or you don't talk about because it's too shameful. You don't invite Uncle Jim to come for Thanksgiving dinner because you know what, it's embarrassing, it's all that available. I say, okay, so anyone would like to volunteer to do a piece on with me on stage? And I went directly to this person there in the middle and I say, okay, you in blue there. And she stood up and she said, I have an Uncle Jim, his name is Jim.
She said that Uncle Jim being an alcoholic and being very shameful, and I think he killed himself and she had to clean it up.
Yeah.
But you said to her, when he died, you took on his pain. And she said it was like you opened a window that had not been opened her entire life for her to see something that she never realized. Welcome back to the Sage for Living podcast. That clip that you just heard was Michelle Bletchner, our Family Constellations facilitator, speaking of our next guest, Brindley Tucker at Tony Robbins, and her connection to the field and to Family Constellations. So we're going to get into everything today with Brindley, from her past, her personal life, her business success, her business failures, life, Family Constellations, Tony Robbins, and all the magic that she is now bringing to the world. So I'm so excited to have Brindley here. Brindley, thank you for joining us from St. Petersburg, Florida.
Thank you for having me, Susan. It's so exciting to be here, and I'm excited to share with your audience today.
Thank you. So where do we want to start? There's so much that we can dig into. You know, I love that we just played that clip and that Michelle was last week's episode. So there's so much to dig into, how this moment changed your life. But I'm sure there's much about who you are and where have you been and what brought you to that point.
You know, it was definitely a journey. And I think that is the one thing that I share with folks that are on this journey, whether it be any kind of personal development modality, whether it's constellations or therapy or, ayahuasca or any of the modalities that we now have, we have so much now, which we're so blessed in the era that we live in, that it is a journey. And a lot of people will look at someone and they'll think that if a 13-year journey was an overnight success. And I always am true to the authenticity of the process, because my journey to Michelle actually started in 2021, yet I didn't meet her until a year later. And then we didn't actually start working together until 3 years later. So it kind of progressed itself based on when the field was ready for me to lean into that relationship. And so I think a great place to start, I believe, would be kind of what that story was for me on my side. You just heard Michelle's perception, yet here I was sitting in the audience. I had gone to UPW in 2021. A client, actually at the time, a coaching client, had said, we have an extra ticket, and so would you like to go?
Tell our audience, what is UPW? Explain
So
to that.
UPW is Unleash the Power Within. It's Tony Robbins, one of his, it's if not his largest event of the year. So it's the event that attracts the most attendees. It's in West Palm Beach. It's 2 to 3 days of intensive personal development, learning about programming and basic human needs and just all sorts of things. And it's interesting. The client actually gave me the ticket, and there were 2 tickets, and I reached out to a girlfriend and she came with me. And, you know, I always tell this as a joke, but Tony Robbins is one of the smartest men that I've ever met in my entire life. And he's smart because he's brilliant because of the tools and the modalities that he has. Yet he also knows how to help folks remove the limiting beliefs of the affordability of the help. Right now, a lot of people will say that he's a salesman and he's manipulative. And I don't choose to look at it that way. I choose to look at it in a way that the man has found a way to execute on mass scale personal development and open up a world of other modalities. And it's also afforded a lot of individuals their income, their family support, and everything. And so I go to UPW, I get totally sold to Platt. Next thing I know, I have the lanyard around my neck because, of course, they give you a special lanyard if you pay more money to become part of the bigger group, right? And I'm on fire. I'm excited. I have the credit card ready to go. And I had no idea at the time what I was signing up for. Like,
really? So you went right from UPW to Platt.
They're like, become a Platt, you can have more. I'm in like a total sober personal development high on a pink cloud. Yes, I want more. I stroke the check. And next thing I know, like, I'm on a $125,000 journey with Tony Robbins.
Wow.
And at the time, I'm running a company of, I think we were at 23 people at that point. I think we're well over 7 figures at this point. And I'm thinking this is going to be great. It's going to scale my business. It's going to take me to elevated heights. And let's just say we're now here exactly 4 years later. The business is officially gone as of yesterday. I am going fully into systemic coaching and alignment for organizations and entrepreneurs and leaders. And it is all Michelle Bleckner and Tony Robbins' fault.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. Wow. First of all, audience, I've done UPW as well. I've actually done it twice. I did it in person in West Palm Beach, and I did it also online. And it is, I think it's powerful. And yes, he is a great salesman, but I actually feel that he is sharing with the world his skills, his community, his knowledge for you to learn and grow. And it is up to you. You can go to platinum just like she did, or you can watch podcast after, not do the Date with Destiny. You don't have to do all of it, but you get something from it each time you do anything like this work. So
exactly.
amazing.
And I would write that check over and over and over again. Yet at that moment, had I not been in that state, I would not have done it.
Yeah.
Right.
And look where it led you to, Michelle, and to Family Constellations and to your new business. So maybe it didn't grow that current business, but it created your whole new reality and your whole new business through this. I am so excited right now to get into this. So, wow.
So, and what's interesting, I just thought about this, Susan, yesterday, because yesterday was a really big day. It was the last conversations with the last team members of unwinding the business. So there was a lot of closure, a lot of reflection. And it came to me that Tony does an exercise at UPW, and where he makes you go to like your 80-year-old, like worst self. Like if you don't do what you're supposed to do, like what's the worst thing that's going to happen to you? And you do this whole visual exercise. And I was a decrepit skinny old lady who had not eaten on on my bathroom floor, like looking at myself in the mirror going like, you're going to rot away and no one's going to like just look at you. And I remembered that yesterday. And that was the first exercise at UPW. And here I am 4 years later saying, I'm finally going all in on myself and giving the world what Tony asked me that day. If I didn't give, I would turn into an 80-year-old decrepit woman.
Right. And having to let that business go so you don't become that.
That's right.
Wow.
I mean, how powerful is that?
Unbelievable.
You know, and so it is a journey. And with Michelle, so I signed up for Platt at UPW. You go on 3 or 4 trips with Platt, with Tony. And it's a group of about 300 to 400 people. And so the spiritual trip, the happiness trip, is where I met Michelle. And you heard the story from her perspective. And from where I'm sitting, it's 10 o'clock at night. They've had us up all day. I'm in my like sweats, a ponytail. I've probably been crying, swimming. Like I just look like a hot mess. And they wheel this little 80-year-old woman with bright red lipstick out on the stage, this French woman. And she starts telling us about Family Constellations. And I remember she was explaining how they used it for survivor's guilt with Holocaust survivors. And as she was starting to explain it, and then she says, it's like if you had an Uncle Jim who would show up drunk to holiday dinners, you know, and that's what she said on the last episode. And as those words came out of her mouth, I remember Eugene was sitting next to me and my hand went down on Eugene's thigh. My jaw dropped to the floor. And you would have thought my name just got called on The Price is Right. I was like, ah! Like she asked for a volunteer and I like shot my hand down. Literally, so did everybody else in the room, by the way. You know, when she asks for a volunteer, right? Of course, everyone's like, yes, I want to do the work. That's what I'm here for. And she looked right at me, Susan, and she said, you. And I walked up to the stage and I was bawling by that point. And I just said, I had to come up here because I have an Uncle Jim and he would show up drunk every holiday. And when he was murdered when I was 18, my senior year of high school, and I had to scrub his blood out of tile floor. And that's when I started my, 20-year journey down addiction and alcoholism. And that sweet woman put her hand on my thigh and she looked me dead in the eye and she said, when he died, you picked up his trauma. And I had been in recovery for 13 years. I had done everything under the sun, recovery programs, Tony, I mean, all of it. And that it scared me into 3 years of hiding from Michelle. Like I didn't want to talk to anyone after that. I ran out of the room after I said, I just really don't want to talk about it. It was crazy. There were some connections after that were made. And I did a testimonial at one point for Michelle. Yet I wasn't ready at that time. I just wasn't ready. But the moment itself started to open up a pathway to my ancestors and to the way that I looked at them that was different than any 12-step program I had ever done.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wow. So it's not just a 1, 2, 3. It was a big wow. A box was open, and you needed your time to process that and to go on your journey. So I'm in awe. I have tears in my eyes because it is so powerful of a revelation. And that is the word that she brought up with constellations that comes up as a revelation. And in that moment, you had this revelation that you took on that pain. And with Family Constellations, that's what I always tell people. Sometimes a movement is created and things can shift. But a lot of the times it's an awareness and a revelation that is presented. And now you have to do something with it and about it. So I look forward to you sharing this journey and what you did with that piece, because that is a huge part of Family Constellations. It's not going to fix and solve your life, but it could create this an awareness or a revelation that puts you on a journey of healing something that maybe you didn't fully realize you were, or in your case, you were in a constant journey of healing for this, but it changed the direction of that healing.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest thing, Susan, that and you said it, that I've learned with constellation and systemic work is the facilitators are simply here to reveal. As a facilitator, as a coach, as a guide, I am simply here. Michelle was simply here to reveal for me. It is my role to resolve if I choose to, because everything is a choice. And so I believe in my personal journey. Now, others may have judgment of my journey, yet this is my journey, and this is what I choose to believe it was, is that there was a lot happening in the background that a lot of people didn't know about, right? I had a pretty big organization with a lot of lives involved, with a lot of entanglement that was happening that I didn't even know it was entanglement, right? I had been doing intuitive coaching. I had been doing generational saboteur coaching and NLP. I'm a master practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming. So I had a lot of the modalities. They just weren't labeled the same. And it's almost like Family Constellations brought everything together. Like it said, here's the modality that is the foundation of everything else. It's the reveal, so that you can then go use all the other modalities to resolve what is revealed.
Beautiful.
And that's what it was for me. That's what it was for me. And my nervous system at that time, after the revelation I had at UPW, I needed a year before it could be exposed to Family Constellation through Michelle on stage at Happiness. And then it took 3 more years for the field to say, okay, you're ready to go start practicing the work.
Right.
Not just with your clients, but not just inside yourself, but also with your clients. That there is a gift here, and there is a pathway for you that is more true to purpose in yourself than anything you've been doing previously. And that's what Family Constellations has given me. It's given me my true purpose in life.
Wow. So let's go back. Let's go back and find out, learn more about you and your past, because you are such a badass businesswoman, you know, and you've had many careers. I read your bio and the different things you've done. And let's get into that, of what led you to that point of UPW. Obviously was a business and a personal side. So tell our audience a bit about your background. And
yeah, so it's amazing. I just did my first breathwork session this weekend. And so it couldn't be more perfect timing to kind of talk about and go back to the story. So I was born in 1980. My mother was the eldest of 3. My mother's mother was the daughter of a brothel owner and a whorehouse owner out of Pensacola. My nanny, as we called her. They raised them in a very strict home. Perfection was a very high level value, but my grandmother dealt with a lot of rage that she was passed down from her mother. My grandmother never drank. She never used any type of substance, because my great grandmother was so abusive with alcohol and would physically abuse her growing up. And my mom kind of sheltered herself from all of it. And my mother would spend the majority of her time locked in her room, because there was so much chaos going on downstairs. And so when she left the home at 18, she fell in love with her high school sweetheart, and he basically broke her heart. And then she went off to LSU, fell in love again, and he broke her heart because both of the men said that they wanted her to convert to Catholicism and have a bunch of babies. And my mother had just gotten free from a very, very strict Baptist family and was like, no, I'm going to have fun. And I was the fun. When she found out that she was pregnant with me, she was 25, and they told her if she had another abortion that they didn't know if she'd be able to have children ever again. And so she didn't know who my father was. She had slept with 3 men in the time frame of finding out that she was pregnant, and didn't go to any of them to let them know. And then she did not make a decision whether or not she was going to keep me or give me up for adoption before my birth. So going into my birth, there was no decision made. After birth, I was given to the nunnery, to the nuns in Baton Rouge for 2 weeks, while my mother decided if she was going to come back and raise me, or if she was going to pass me on to an adoptive family. The reason I go into detail about this is so important in constellation, because it involves separation at birth. Yes. Separation at birth is a systemic trauma that we want to look at, even if it has been for a brief time. And that was something I learned through constellation, and a lot of release was able to be done around the birth through breath work because of it, because of what was uncovered during constellation.
I love that you go into the detail of this stuff. And as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, as the audience, wondering, how does she know all of this stuff? And Michelle mentioned in Constellations that we don't talk about our family history. There's so much secrets in the family. So I would assume through this constellation work, Brindley has gone back to her mother or her grandmother and family members and asked these stories and asked these questions. I love knowing everything I know from stories from my parents, from stories from my grandparents. I wish I'd been in this work when my grandparents were still alive, so I could know more about my ancestry, because we do carry this stuff within us. So I love that you're going into that detail, and I hope that our audience is curious about their own families. You know, like, we never think of our parents as children, our grandparents as children, but they were, and they had experiences just like we did.
Well, and I think also that's such a great point, Susan. And for me, the journey was really deep because there's a lot of systemic silence in my mother's system. Now, I don't know my father. So that is something to be mentioned also, is there was a lot of growing that had to be done in constellation with not knowing my father. And something that we speak of in constellation is you don't have to know your father to be grateful for your father. And the reason is because at the end of the day, no matter what our parents have done, whether my mother had given me up for adoption, come back to get me, whether I agree with that process or not, whether I agree with her not telling my father, wherever those resentments may lie, no matter what they are, I can always be grateful to my mother and father for life. Yes. Because what we learn in constellation is the only thing that our parents are responsible for is giving us life. Yes. Anything after birth is really a bonus. It's a choice that they're making to devote to us. So truly, if it's a gift, how can I be upset with the gift? Because we're just human, all doing the best that we can do along our own journeys. And that's what constellation did for me. Constellation, I have been asking questions since I was 10 about my dad. I mean, I remember being 12 and coming home, and my mom, I had all her photo albums out going, and just looking up at her and going, who's my daddy? And there were always these secrets of like, she doesn't remember, and grandma says she remembers, and I'm going to tell. And it was always this like, this secrecy around my father. And I never understood it.
Did you ever find out?
Well,
I mean, I feel like there's so much from here to get to that point.
Right,
I don't know if you want to do that reveal yet, or you want to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, what I found out first was where the alcoholism came from. And see, my entire life, my nanny, which was my grandmother's mother that I mentioned, that owned the brothels. So she owned a bar in Pensacola. And then she owned a brothel. It was interesting when I started learning about my ancestors, and I found newspaper clippings from my nanny where she got arrested like for prostitution. And I'm like, she was awesome. Like, I mean, like, you know, because it was all public back then. And so then I start to say, okay, well, rather than judge her, that's where I get my entrepreneurial spirit from. That's where I get my go-getter from. Yes. Is it where I get my rage and my alcoholism from? It sure is. Yet it's not all bad. I can take the good and I can give and leave the bad with love and respect. Beautiful. It's just, we haven't learned until we enter constellation that there's a difference, that we're able to take some and leave some. I think for so many years, all of us think we just have to carry it all. We don't.
We don't.
And so what we actually found out through constellation, that because everyone said it was Nanny, she was the drunk, it was all her fault. My uncle's death was her fault. My aunt's addiction was her fault. Everything was Nanny's fault. Everyone hated Nanny. And when I started researching about Nanny, what I found out was that Nanny's father, Kirk McLaughlin, died when she was 5.
Okay. There you go.
Kirk McLaughlin married my grandma Brindley. So why did my grandma Brindley marry Kirk McLaughlin, who died when my nanny was 5, who is also a drunk and a Black Irish alcoholic bootlegger? And then you start to say, okay, maybe the martyr that the family put on a pedestal isn't the martyr so much anymore. And then you start to unravel and start to have an appreciation for Nanny, who was blamed the whole for years, and say, well, wait a minute, why? What happened to Nanny to cause her to feel so much pain that she had to sell her body and she had to go have, sex at 13? And there's something that causes that. And then through constellation, it was revealed that the alcoholism actually came through Grandma Brindley. Grandma Brindley brought the alcoholism into the system. And system married system. And that began our system's journey into addiction and alcoholism. And that's the beauty, because when we always say, you got to pull the root, yet how often are we really getting to the root? Like, where did it truly start?
There's so about poor Nanny who lost her father at 5 and then had the stepfather, and who knows what their childhood was like. Right.
That's
so
exactly.
She got blamed for everything, and it was really her father who
That's
brought that into the bloodline. Wow.
And there were a few constellations. There was one we do group exercise in constellation. So the collective group, which is anywhere from about 10 to 20 people at one time, the facilitator. And in this exercise, it was revealed that the alcoholism did not come from Nanny. It came from the generation before her. And it revealed that the alcoholism came from Grandma Brindley. And so when that constellation revealed that, then I went back and did research. And I started researching, and that's how I found out that Kirk McLaughlin had died when Nanny was 5. And I started to ask questions. Wait, her dad died at 5. She got pregnant for the first time at 13. She had my grandmother at 15. Like, that doesn't happen to 13-year-old little girls unless there's something really tragic going on. Yet nobody knows.
What years was this?
This was probably like 1930s, late 1920s, early 1930s. And the crazy thing is, everybody knows everything about everyone in my family except Nanny. Nobody knows anything about her history except that Grandma Brindley was her mother, Kirk McLaughlin was her father, and she was a drunk and a whore. That's all they know.
Wow.
And so it started to reveal compassion for her, which then started to open up conversations with my mother. And, everything in personal development is a goal towards rewiring our nervous systems. And I decided when that event happened in 2021, I had no idea the journey that it would take to get to yesterday, to unwind a business of 13 years. And I've been telling people that I really have been unwinding the business for 2 years after that spiritual trip. Yet the truth is it's really been unwinding since UPW, since that exercise, where I made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to continue to be in toxic environments. I wasn't going to continue to make money for other people. I wasn't going to continue to take care of everyone else, please everyone else, put everyone else before me. And yet it took 43 years to get there. So it wasn't going to unwind in 43 days or 43 hours.
Right.
It was a 4-year journey to get to yesterday, to be able to come to this podcast today and say, I am 1000% all in on Brindley Tucker and my coaching and my speaking and my pouring into others and utilizing the stories that God has created in this beautiful life to help people systemically align because of what it's done for my life. A second constellation with Nanny proved through a group exercise. At the end of it, the person that was representing me was the only person that wasn't in the group, was staring at a Buddha sign, and the whole other group was over here except one person. They were as far away from everybody as possible. And one of the women was actually pregnant in the group. And she said, I don't feel close to any of those people. And what we found, the woman that felt at a distance was Nanny. Nanny felt that she didn't feel attached to the rest of the family. That was my mom, my grandma Brindley, when it was revealed, was the group of people. And then the person staring at the Buddha was me, searching for the answers to heal the system.
Wow.
And so it was further confirmation to me that there was something with Nanny that needed to be cleared for me to be truly free of what was causing my addiction and my alcoholism, which is lack of connection.
That this is so big that to get to this point.
I mean, it's been huge.
So much bigger than just Constellations, though, your story, right? Constellations is this final piece that's pulled you together to your purpose.
Mm-hmm. And once the Nanny revelation occurred and I was able to resolve that, then it was on to the father and resolving and revealing things about my father's line, because systemically we hold energies from both lines. So when one doesn't know a certain family member, you're not going to necessarily know what causes those energies, those behaviors, those beliefs that have been programmed, passed down, preconditioned, whatever label that you want, you choose to use. And so I had done DNA testing with ancestry.com and with 23andMe years ago. So about probably 4 or 5 years ago, there was a connection made on ancestry.com between a second cousin and myself on my father's side. And I reached out several times. I reached out to a few other family members on my father's side, and no one responded. And then all of a sudden, I come back from Constellation and I finally get a message from the second cousin. And within weeks, I'm on a phone call with the second cousin. And I have to say to anyone that's on a similar journey, there was a whole process to go through. I'm 45 years old. I've been looking for my father since I was 10. I didn't realize until I was in my 30s that I really had not even thought about what it meant to find my father. He may be deceased. He may be in jail. He may have a beautiful family that I'm going to disrupt and cause a whole wave of chaos. I was too immature then to think about the repercussions or the ripple effect of searching him out would be. And so what Constellation brought me to is a very healing place of congruency and alignment with that journey, that no matter what the outcome was, I was going to be okay. And I now know that that's why the story is what it is. So that'll be in the book. Nobody will get that story before I tell that story myself. Yet it's another reason, go do a constellation. You cannot explain it. Yet I am the closest I've ever been to finding my father. There is a lot of healing to be done in that system and in that family if they choose to do it. So I do believe that systemically, the field is revealing things to me from that system so that I can help move things forward in that system and reveal things in that system and be a truth teller in that system.
Wow. So Family Constellations has changed your life in so many ways, because not only did you get into the work in your personal life to heal these things of the past, to go in to reveal that Nanny is not the horrible person that everyone made her out to be, and to have more compassion and love for her story and her journey, that you don't know about, of her childhood and what happened from, her father dying at 5 to her becoming a prostitute, to then also dig deeper into your father, even not even knowing who he is, and bringing that to the field. Now as well, you're bringing this into your own business. You're changing your entire life because of this modality. And this just is what lights me up. So my system is where we start. That's where a lot of our healing is. Bert Hellinger, the creator of Constellations, said 50 years in this work, and I'm still working on my mother. You know, a lot of the work does have to do with our relationship to our mother's relationship to her own mother, and so on of the own personal journeys. But there is also a business side of all of this, a systemic side of all of this. And you're finding that way to bring this knowledge, this modality, your skills, your expertise, and how you've really grasped this. Like, I watch you in Constellations, and your perception of the field and your connection to the field and your business acumen. I think this is a really powerful thing you're going to bring to the business world and to people and leaders. And this is what this podcast is all about. So thank you for answering this call. Thank you for your entire journey, you know, and seeing it as a journey and knowing that this is the human experience, and we can reinvent ourselves every day, and we can heal and grow every day to become the best versions that we are meant to be while we are in this life.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Susan. And you said a word there that I think is the perfect word to kind of go through that journey of business and how systemically it has shown up. All of this has shown up in my business life over the years, and that is reinvent. To me, that's what growth is. It's just a constant reinvention of oneself. And the more comfortable that we can become in creating a new avatar and then being that avatar in order to do the things that avatar does, in order to have the things that avatar has, is really the gift that should be honed. Because when that becomes comfortable, then it becomes very easy to start moving through growth. And that's really what it's been for me. My mother, I was raised by an independent single mom. She started in 1985 as a secretary for Raymond James, which is one of the biggest financial firms in the country now. When she started, she was making $12,000 a year. And I watched her bust her butt for 18 years to raise me. By the time I graduated from high school, she was a senior vice president of institutional sales and the only female covering the territory of New York. And I was raised a very strict Southern Baptist. I was not proud of myself if I got a B. Straight A's was straight A's or nothing. I was raised very much in a world that perfection equaled love and attention equaled love, because my mother traveled a lot because she didn't have a strong support system. My grandparents helped tremendously, but because of my grandmother's own systemic challenges and her trauma, I wasn't able to stay at their home a lot because of her rage. And so I was also programmed and raised in an environment where I was conditioned that reaction was the way to respond. And it wasn't until Constellation and truly getting into the root of what was causing the behavior did that reaction start to become a true response and no longer with the trigger, because that's how deep it was. It was generations of women carrying that pain over and over and over again. And that was my grandmother. And so I was pretty much straight A's, going to the biggest Baptist college in the country, got accepted to Baylor University. I was excited about my college dreams to become a neuroscientist. Never drank, never smoked, never did anything. And then I woke up on I think it was a Thursday or Friday morning of my senior year of high school. And my mother was crying and she said, Uncle Jim was killed last night. And we were all thrown into a made-for-TV movie. My uncle was shot at close range through a bedroom window by his girlfriend's son that was 18 also at the time. The answering machine was missing out of the house. There was a lot of chaos around the death. And at a time in which someone should be celebrating graduating from high school, going to prom, going to grad night, being with her friends, I was dealing with massive trauma, news reporters, scrubbing blood out of tile floors, all of these things. The last place I wanted to be was home. And I wanted to get as far away from home as I could. And so I went to Baylor University and I went nuts. I discovered drugs and alcohol. Fortunately, I was able to be pretty good in school. So I was able to make the grades that I needed to make to keep the money coming. And then I played dominoes to make up the difference. And my family's addiction took control. And I was very, very miserable for a lot of years. And I made a lot of mistakes, got into a lot of trouble with the law in college, but graduated with a 3.0, got hired, even got an internship with Edward Jones. So, the alcoholism, the addiction was something that never would really get in the way of my success until later in life. When I was younger, I was always able to pull it off, right? I was always able to get over the hangover. And I was always able to make it work until it didn't work. And I had moved back home. I was 31. I was going to go into real estate after working. I had worked in Wall Street in New York in hedge funds. I had done country club membership sales. And at this point, I'm like, I'm totally unemployable. I just want to be able to have my life and have fun and not have anybody tell me what to do. I'm going to go into real estate. And I got hired by a real estate office here in Florida. And that was in November of 2011. And in February, I went out one night, don't remember any of it, made a U-turn in front of a motorcycle in the middle of a blackout and woke up in the bottom of a jail cell. Got out of the jail cell, got home, called the police station to find out where my car was, and they said it was being held in investigation of a vehicular homicide.
What?
And I remember hanging up the phone and looking at my mom that day and going, what am I going to do if I kill someone? And my entire life changed that day. By the grace of God, the man did not die. He healed. But for 2 days, I thought he had. And I thought I was going to prison for the rest of my life. I was facing 15 years. I was facing a DUI with serious bodily injury, fleeing the scene of an accident with serious bodily injury. I saw no way out. I was $50,000 in fines. It was community service. I lost my job. I lost my real estate license. And it was basically God saying, like, and the system saying, like, we don't want this to happen to you. So you've got a choice here. And I truly believe that everything in our life is a choice. I believe I'm a beautiful creator. I will create certain situations in my life in order to grow. So nothing in my life is good or bad. It just is. Because it's either there to help me learn and grow or to validate that I'm headed in the right direction by celebration and appreciation.
Amazing and beautiful way to look at things. It's true. And I agree with you. Yeah. Everything and I also believe that God won't give us more than we can handle. You have to stand up when you're put to the test, put to a test for a reason. And it is to grow. And if not, you're not going to grow and you're going to be miserable. But if we can learn from everything that happens, because life is just full of experiences and it is constant change and constant growth. And we have to look, even you taking that good from Nanny, and that she was a businesswoman in a time that women didn't own businesses. Like, what a badass. It might have been a brothel, but she figured out how to make it work and what was needed at the time. So it's like, yeah, we got to learn and grow from everything that happens. But wow, Brindley, and what a traumatic experience and what a wake-up call.
It was huge.
That's what we call a wake-up call, and God knocking on your door and giving you another chance.
It was huge. And, and it was in my Line 5 method that I use for clients, it was that time of having to get realigned. And that's exactly what it was. It was a realignment. I used to say that my life was over, or I thought my life was over. No, it was a realignment. It was, some of us are more stubborn than others. Some of us, it takes more than others. Right. And that was what I needed or chose for myself to get me into the next realm of growth, to start to heal some of these systemic challenges that I have and that we have as a system. And I want to bring those things to the field. I want to learn more so that I can release it, because even though I don't have children and I don't have future generations, my clients do, my partners do, my friends do, my family does. And so my impact is so great through doing this work because of the amount of people that I touch on a daily basis, right? And bringing this work to so many people. So the accident happens. I wake up, I realize I'm in a awful relationship with an alcoholic who's just as miserable as I am. I don't really have a business. I have no family. No one wants to be anywhere near me. And I walk into an attorney's office and they tell me what to do. And I go on a path of amazing recovery. As far as business is concerned, I couldn't get a real estate license at the time. So I started my first business as an entrepreneur on a bike with a laptop. I would strap my laptop to the back of a Schwinn bike cruiser, and I would travel from realtor to realtor, helping work on their websites, their marketing, administrative support. And then I eventually grew that into a business where we provided administrative support for brokerages and support and operations. And then in 2019, the head of MAPS Coaching, which is the coaching division of Keller Williams, came to me and said, will you build our business operations coaching for Keller Williams? And I took a journey, started in 2016. And I'm so grateful for my time at MAPS. MAPS was really the time that launched me into the personal development realm. It also taught me a lot about myself. It put me in a very big stage, in a very big world before I was ready. And so it allowed me to fail forward with my ego and with a lot of the attention and significance and recognition a lot of people in our field face when they start doing the work and they start teaching and speaking about the work. So I'm really, really grateful. You know, I've spoken on the stages of 10,000, 20,000. Would I do that again? Absolutely. Yet it's different when that's what fed you before versus what feeds you today. And when I will constantly say this to Michelle Bleckner, I worked for MAPS until COVID in about 2019, 2020. And that's when I decided to take the first bet on myself and go all in on my organizations. And I had two organizations at that time. I had the coaching organization and I had the administrative support organization. And my coaching organization was growing. I was starting to coach outside of real estate. I'm coaching teams that are doing 2,500 real estate transactions, $13 million a month in title. I'm coaching law firms that are doing 20 to 25 million in revenue. We're doing a lot of intuitive coaching, a lot of unpacking of belief systems and behaviors. And I'm just unhappy. I'm miserable. I go to Tony in 2021. He's like, build your business, scale. Here are the stages. I come back to my team. We get all pumped up and I'm going, and it's not working. It's not working. I'm going more and more in debt. I'm in love with the people that I work with, so I can't let them go, right? They're all making money. They're all getting fed. Meanwhile, I'm going further and further into debt. I'm hurting people that I love because I'm becoming someone that I don't want to be because it's a business I don't want to do. I'm not passionate about it. I'm passionate about coaching and speaking and making impact and changing lives. And that's the gift that God's given me. But I was so ashamed of making a living with my mouth because I was told for so many years that I wasn't enough. I talk too much. I'm annoying. And all of those beliefs kept me from feeding the biggest, greatest gift that God has given me. Yet I had so much we talk about entanglements in constellation and systemic work. An entanglement is when you have entangled yourself in someone else's energy field or energy entanglement, relationship, partnership, whatever label you want to use it. Basically, you've placed yourself in their shit. And you don't even realize a lot of times that you do it.
Right.
Until you wake up one day or someone points it out and you're like, whoa, I've been involved in it in relationships where I've been involved in entanglements between my partner and their former partners. I've been in entanglement with coworkers where I'm a leader, yet I'm getting involved in this entanglement over here and I'm showing up as an employee. So there were so many entanglements that at the time I didn't realize I couldn't just burn all the boats. It was going to be a process. Yet my nervous system could not even handle acknowledging that it was going to be a process. Because I look back now and I look at how things unfolded from 2021 at UPW when I did that first exercise to sitting before you today. And it's almost exactly 4 years.
Right. Well, it's interesting because it's like you, after the accident, you know, you found your sobriety, I'm sure, and you became very successful, but then very unhappy. And it's exactly like the work doesn't end. When we find these revelations and these openings and these growth opportunities within life, life is ever evolving, ever changing, more stuff is going to continue to happen. So it's, you know, please, audience, know that's why we're showcasing and sharing so many different things that are out there, because even with us who are healers, go through our own transformations and transitions of even what modalities are really present in our lives at one time, and then maybe in the future it's not so present. Like for me, I found what worked, and it worked for you to create a life, but very interesting, it got to you, now you weren't happy, and you knew that there was different and more to what you were bringing to the world, and that there was still more healing to do.
And it's interesting because I look back and, I look at the times when friends of mine, very, very dear friends, I'm very fortunate that the people in my life, like I'm still best friends with my best friend from high school. Right? I'm very, very grateful to have people in my life that have seen me through all of these phases of development, as I call them. And so many people saw it. They knew what I should be doing. They saw the gift. They saw where I should be pouring in. They saw where I was forcing so much of this business to happen, to please others, to prove to others, to be something in the industry when none of those people even cared. They weren't going to give me the credit. They weren't going to acknowledge that I had $1 million business just like they did. I was never going to get the appreciation, the recognition that I was chasing and searching for because I had equated it to love. Because I was not taught the true meaning of love. Through my experiences, through my programming, my system, the line has taught us that love is attention, love is significance, love is perfection. That's right. It's people. That's where the people pleasing comes from. I people please because if I'm good, if I'm a good girl, you'll love me. You'll buy me what I want. And so it wasn't until all of those things started unraveling that we were able to get to the true core of Brindley. And then it just came to a day, Susan, where I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And some people left on their own. The field removed them. Some people left very upset. And I've done a lot of release around my part in that. And, it's exiting entanglement 99.9% of the time, it's not comfortable. It's typically someone you care about deeply. It's typically someone that you both have, and I'm going to cry now, put yourself into positions that you honestly wanted what was best for each other and to do what was best for each other. Yet, you never had the control. It was never your choice. It was never up to you. And, and what was beautiful about yesterday is that the first individual exited the company 2 years ago. And then since then, it's been an untangling of relationship after relationship. And yet, I want to add this because this is so important. I didn't ever force it. I allowed the field to reveal in time, and then I would resolve. That's why it took 2 years. I could have gone in and gone, hack, fire everybody, get out, done, file bankruptcy, I'm out. Yet that wasn't the lesson for me. The lesson and the intention for me was to do this, yet to also learn how to slow down in the process, which meant that I had to trust the field and trust the reveal and seek counsel and wisdom and resolve from the field, from my God, from my guides, from my Michelles on how to resolve it. Yeah. And then that's right. And, I'm not going to sit here and say I was perfect. I mean, there were definitely some hack fire moments inside those 2 years, right? Yeah. And there were non-proud moments, and there were explosive moments, and there were times that I didn't show up as my best self, and I saw it through. And when I thought the company should go in this direction and the field revealed to me that that's not the direction it should go in, I trusted. Even down to the last 2 conversations I had yesterday, because 2 months ago, the plan was to shut down the business, go all in on Brindley. I was there. I was ready. Michelle and I did a call together. I had done a constellation that revealed it. I was done. And I showed up to have my last conversation, and it was with someone I've been in business with for 6 years. And they showed up with a 13-page business plan of a company that they wanted to build. And they asked me to be their leader. And at the time, I was feeling really beat up about myself. Like, I had been unwinding this business for 1.5 years, almost 2 years. And I was like, you want me to be your leader? Why? Like, I'm horrible. Like, I've hurt so many people. Like, why would you want that? I don't understand. But of course, I'll do it. And we started building it in the last couple months. And it was revealed this weekend that that's not where my heart is. It's not where my passion was. And here was the systemic pattern showing up again. Doing something for someone else because it would please them, it would make them like me, it would make me be someone that they wanted me to be, even though it wouldn't make me happy. And the most beautiful thing is I had that exact conversation with him yesterday. It was the most beautiful parting of a 6-year relationship. It closed on the best energy because it was all in truth. It was in love. It was in respect. It was in honor. And then the second conversation after that was a woman that I actually was going to stay in business with. But what I realized, and this is another systemic principle that I think is so important for people to know, is that the universe operates on order. And order is balance and even exchange. There always has to be balance, order, and even exchange. And this was a woman that had coached with us for years. We had brought her coaching clients. We were on a commission split. We had been splitting with her for years. And I looked at the relationship and I said, I could keep collecting that money from her. And she would, by the way, she would totally disagree with me. She would say she's getting all the value and I should charge her forever. She did yesterday. But instead I said, no, I have to do this for me because I have to be in order. And I don't feel that it's an even exchange. So I'm going to allow you and release these clients to you. And you go start your own coaching practice because you're ready. I've taught you what I can teach you. And now I want to support you in your next business. And I let that revenue go because that's what it's supposed to be. It was no longer an even exchange. And that relationship with her means more to me than risking to find out if I'm right or wrong. I'm going to trust the field that I'm right.
Wow.
So it's just, and then seeing with my clients, Susan, bringing it in and finding out where if they're the oldest sibling of 4, they will begin to show up as the responsible child in the organization. And we'll start to see how their relationships within organizations are functioning based on systemic roles they took on in their families.
So you're bringing the systemic family system into coaching your clients in their business.
Yes. So I'll give you an example. I had a client last week that I was on a one-on-one call with. She has 2 businesses. Her original business started in Wisconsin, and then her whole family decided they wanted to move to California. I mean, who wouldn't, right? It's Wisconsin. And so she's been operating 2 businesses in each locations. We've been coaching together for, I think, almost a year, but for the last 6 months, we've been working on getting the Wisconsin location generating revenue and increasing profitability. And it hasn't been working. Everything strategy she's implemented, she's hit a brick wall. She's hit resistance. And so finally, on our call this week, something was revealed to me through the field. And I said, is there something going on with your father? There's something that needs to be extinguished. I'm feeling the field's telling me something needs to be extinguished with Dad. We'll come to find out the only remaining family member in Wisconsin was her father. And the father and her had a very interesting relationship growing up. There was a lot of attention seeking. Never felt that she was fully appreciated and acknowledged by her father, and would have to play sports to prove it. Well, her and her father just did a recent real estate transaction together in Wisconsin. And during the call, as I'm revealing this to her, she gets an email from her father that says, you know, I've been thinking you did such a great job on the lake house. What do you think about purchasing a piece of property out in California that we can use as a family piece of land? I don't want to just do this for money. I'm going to cry. I don't just want to do this for money. I want to do this because it was really fun to do with you. And I looked at the client and I said, he's choosing you. Do you see? He's choosing you. You can release this now. You can be grateful for him. He's coming back to you. You have a choice on how you want to clear this relationship for the future, how you want to use that relationship in the future for your children. And come to find out after the call, he was coming in town that weekend. There were big, so it shows up everywhere, because as entrepreneurs and leaders, most of the entrepreneurs and leaders I'm working with are at a very, very high performance level. And so the personal and the business are very well mixed. Our businesses grow to the extent that we do. And so in my Align 5 method, we don't even hit business until the last 5th pillar. Because if my spirit is not connected and I'm not open to receive, then I can't fix my head. And 79% of what I think is negative. So I've got to be listening to things, podcasts like this podcast with Susan, listening to the modalities that she's sharing, adopting those modalities and using them into your life, not being afraid to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Number 3, then, what are you doing for your emotional health? Are you hugging enough? Are you kissing enough? Are you sexy timing enough? Then we can start working on our physical body, because that shit's hard. That's like probably the hardest. And if we don't have our spirit, mind, and our emotions straight, we certainly can't get up and get our asses kicked at the gym every day. And then once we have ourselves and our foundation, our operating system solid, then we can go build our businesses. And once we've done that, we're able to see very clearly with a systemic eye when things show up in the organization, when others' systems show up in the organization, and get systems reordered and realigned so that the organization can work towards its highest and best.
Amazing. That's beautiful. You're so clear, and I hope that there are many people in our audience that are going to reach out to you to work with you. What I want are conscious entrepreneurs, conscious business owners, but just conscious people. You're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're a lab tech. Live aligned, live consciously. So as we wrap up, Brindley, and thank you so much for sharing everything that you're bringing to the world, everything that you brought here for your vulnerability and your shares and your openness. How do you live your life aligned? What are some of your daily practices to keep you in alignment?
So I will not take credit for this. Michelle really, I've always been a morning routine girl. I follow a morning routine, and Michelle gave me exactly the formula. And that is, every morning is meditation for connection. So I spend every morning, I don't hold myself to a fire. It's 10 minutes, it's 20 minutes. Some days it's an hour, some days it's 30 minutes, some days it's in bed, some days it's on the couch, some days it's in a chair, some days it's outside. It's nobody's business. It's my meditation practice. And so I open up my portal every day with connection. I also share appreciation of myself every day. I'm very good at looking at everything that is wrong and what I'm doing wrong, or what I need to improve, really, because that's what I'm in. I'm in the growth game. So I have to remember to celebrate my wins. And then setting my intentions, right? My intentions going forward as I go into this season in life is to provide a safe space for leaders and entrepreneurs to unpack their systems without shame. And it's also to be a lifeline when leadership gets lonely, and to provide clarity through the problems so that we can systemically align for a highest and best. And, I think intentions are so important. I was an affirmations girl for so long, and Michelle says they just affirm more of what we don't have. Intention sets the choice. It makes it clear, and it states exactly what we're choosing to achieve. So Susan, thank you for having me. This has been amazing.
Thank you. Now, where can people reach you? Where can they find you? Your Instagram, your website?
BrindleyTucker.com, at Brindley Tucker. That's easy. Google me. You can see the mugshot if you want. Everything's out there. We don't hide anything here. So I'd love for you guys to follow me, and we'll see you out there soon.
Yeah, and mention the Stage for Living podcast. We haven't figured out yet what that will mean for our audience as Brindley is rebuilding.
Just reach out to Susan and we'll definitely find a win-win for what you're looking for.
Yeah. All right.